For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sean Sandlin. I'm the fire chief for the city of Berea. I've been with the city for 25 years now and have worked within the fire department the whole 25 years and 9 years as the fire chief. I say that because I have seen the beginning of CSEP along until the end of CSEP. As great as CSEP has been, providing jobs in the community, equipment to the fire department, to the police departments, to all agencies, EMS, it is still in the past. And we have to now focus on the future. And I think that's what you all have done, taking the first steps of passing this resolution, appointing 2 members of your staff to this task force. And I will go through the task force members. Tim Gray, Chris Israel for Madison County, Rose Beverly and myself for the city of Berea, Rob Meinrich and Rodney Richardson for the city of Richmond. And we've asked 911 Director Wendy Lynch to also be a part of this with her expertise in the 911 Joint Operations Center. This task force has done an exceptional job. We had Brian Malinwich facilitating the event. He works with Mission Criticals. He has kept us on task the entire time and kept us meeting these dates and these deadlines. So great. Our mission is to facilitate a seamlessly transition from a county with CSEP funding to a community without federal funding, with the objective to identify needed resources, develop a sustainable funding model, create community engagement, strengthen collaborations between all stakeholders, create a coordinate response network, and provide a final recommendation and operation of funding source to sustain the operations of post-CSEP. I think we have done just that. We will have options that you can take back with you, but going forward, we have done what we have been tasked to do. The duration of this task force shall operate until the self-sustaining framework is established and integrated into the local emergency management operation to ensure ongoing public safety efforts post-CSEP and a formal recommendation which is taking place today. We have done that by evaluating the what CSEP has funded currently and what we would ask to be funded after post-CSEP. The task force has identified and reviewed with the help of the CSEP officials, $1.68 million in expenses currently paid for by CSEP funds that are related to the operations and the facility operating cost, the public safety radio system, which is the heartbeat of the emergency services in Madison County. We have evaluated EMA costs and the outdoor warning sirens. The Joint 911 Center currently operates with a $2.5 million operating budget funded by 911 landline fees, wireless line fees, and approximately $1.05 million from the local governments, split equally. In addition to all of these operational expenses, there has been a capital project expenditure that have to be made, previously funded by CSEP, such as the radio system replacement, the partial PSAP upgrades for the 911 center, facility maintenance, and the estimated cost of $13 million will be needed to fund the replacement system over a 15-year life cycle. Some of the things that we evaluated was the outdoor warning sirens, the FM radio alert radios, the rave mass notification system, the DASDEC system, the 800 megahertz safety radio system, which I tell you is the heartbeat to the emergency services in Madison County. It is gives us interoperability from one end of the county to the other, radio to radio with every agency. We don't have to go through dispatch. We can go radio to radio to find out that information. So this is the heart. This is the cost, but this is necessary for the future of Madison County. And the emergency management functions in the Joint 911 Operations Center. The recommendation would be the task force done an analysis and reviewed expenses estimated of current CSEP 911 and EMA resources and is prepared to make the following recommendations on the reduction, the reallocation, and the elimination of current resources. First, we would recommend the reduced outdoor warning sirens to a single siren per zone. CSEP dictates that we have to have multiples around the CSEP areas. We feel that we can reduce those costs and reduce those amount of sirens by eliminating some of those to have one per zone. We plan to eliminate the FM radio program, which is the alert system that is provided to each home in Madison County. You can get that in other places. You can get that on your phone these days. It's not necessary for us to continually add that cost to citizens. The reallocation of the rave mass notification to 911, this combines the existing system to reduce costs there. Oh, sorry. Thanks. Okay, and then also to eliminate the DASDEC system, which is what alerts your telephones, your cell phone service. So we can combine those with the 911 service that was already in place and save that money also, reduce that cost. We need to maintain the 800 megahertz public safety radio system at its current level. The system was optimized as a post CSEP strategy, meaning that we have looked post CSEP with funding reduced and provided a adequate radio system that will take us the next 15 to 20 years at a reduced cost than what CSEP has been paying for initially. We chose that we need to maintain the Joint 911 Operations Center at its current level and plan for future expenditures. Operate and fund the Emergency Management Agency to reduce the cost of potential redundant services. So there is a ability for each government to have their own EMA, but it is better for us to work together, because even if we did separate that, it is important that we still have to go through the county to provide FEMA funds and those kind of things. So it's better for us just to work together. Once again, this is a collaboration working together, and fund that through Tim's office. Okay. The funding options that is available for us per KRS. KRS 67.083 gives local governments the authority to provide and finance various government services specified in statute, which would allow for the creation of a 911 fee. KRS 65760 dictates how that money can be spent when collected as a 911 fee. The options that are available is currently the wired landline phones that you have or you may not have, because most everybody has done away with the landline services these days. Unless you have a bundle service with your internet and stuff, you probably do not have a phone in your house. So those fees are drastically reducing every year. And you will see later on when we show you the budget that you will see those reductions. The water meter fee and the electric meter fee and the land use 911 fee. Each of these options have been precedents in other communities and have stood the test of legal action and are in use across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The methodologies to fund the 911 operations, they have been proven that all four of these are capable of being implemented in communities, and we will go through what we believe is some hurdles in using some of these. And the wired landline telephone use, we obviously know that is reducing each day, and the methodology does not evenly distribute the cost among citizens and businesses. This is a failing funding option. The water meter fee and the electric meter fee pose the same hurdles, and that would be to the collection of the fund would come from many different sources. We know that there's many different electrical sources, many different providers, that is, and water meter providers in the county. So getting through their boards and the collection of each individual fee from each agency would be difficult to get in place in a timely manner. So we feel that both of them is not a liable option also. It is a way, but it is not a good way. Some properties may be have 1 meter, some may have multiples, and the process to maintain that and how to calculate that fee would be difficult to overcome. So we are looking at the 911 fee as a result. I'm sorry, it's a land use 911 fee. Local governments can access the fee on the property tax bill, and the collection of the funds would come from one agency. The fee could be assessed based on the land use 911 fee categories, generating ways that fairly share the cost across the entire county. The method allows for the cost to be assessed based on the use of the 911 service, the existing calls. So we know by our dispatch center how those calls come in, who is the high probability of the calls, who is the low. We can assess that based on that property. So the recommendation would be the land use 911 fee. The fee would pay for the operations of the Madison County Emergency Communication Center, its equipment, the facilities, and the maintenance of the operation system, and provide public safety dispatch communications and related systems and activities for all Madison County. The fee would be used for the continued maintenance and operation of the Madison County Emergency Communication Center, which is the essential public safety service and used by all residents, businesses, enterprises in the county, providing 911 services, dispatch services to all Madison County. This is a funding mechanism that allows for sharing of the cost equally among residents, businesses, enterprises, based on the land use classification. Will determine the fee amount based on the historical call data, like we stated just in the prior slide. Just want to take 1 second right there. If you all have any questions, please write them down on the provided paper. We will open this up at the end of it. We believe that we can answer most of these questions going through the slides, but obviously giving the amount of money that's attached to this and the complexity of the slides, please write those things down. We'll have an open discussion at the end of it. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier, but that is very important. We know that there will be a lot of questions take place. Okay, and the methodology that is in place for other counties and the Commonwealth has stood the test of public opinion and the state of the Supreme Court. Now, we are looking at other communities that have this in place. This very model has come from Kenton County, and we have adapted their model to fit our county, and that's what we will be recommending today. The fee collection can be used to fund the following per KRS 65760. That is very detailed in what money can be spent for when it's collected as a 911 fee. It can be collected for facility costs, the construction, maintenance, and operations. It can cover trainings and memberships. It can cover equipment costs that is allowed per statute, which dictates the infrastructure within the dispatch center. It cannot pay for radios within a patrol car or fire apparatus or EMS apparatus. Only the infrastructure of the towers, the infrastructure within the server system, anything that makes the operational through dispatch work for all of us. So that's important to note. It is very detailed in what the fee can be spent for. So here we are looking at the budget and the funding, and we have projected throughout 6 years worth of funding here, and I would like for you to focus on the first two, because these two numbers, we know that there's like a 3% increase projected out over the next 6 years, each year. So, but if you'll focus on the numbers of the two budgets, that's going to come and play a role here in just a minute when I show you some other slides. So the operational cost for this is, for the 911 center, is $2.5 million in FY25 funding. The 911 facility cost is $189,442. That is the percentage of the building that 911 operates in, the EOC. So it cannot pay for the entire EOC. It can pay for what is the operational part of the 911 center. The radio system, the 911 radio system, has a $849,510 per year budget based on the maintenance service cost contract for the upgrades and the just the maintenance of this entire system, whether that be mowing the yards around the cell phone towers, whether it's the infrastructure that's involved, so forth. So the life cycle of the replacement cost is $675,000 per year. We're projecting that out, staying the same from now on. That will replace the system after 15 to 20 years with no added bonding or anything needing to take place. The outdoor warning system is $77,500, and the mass communication system is $37,000, for a total of $4.329 million in the first year, FY25. In FY26, staying with the 911 funding, you can see a gradual increase to each one of those, totaling to $4.424 million in year 2 of being self-sufficient. So we're looking at two different things here today. We're looking at the needed 911 funding for the landline fee, and then we're looking at the EMA funding. The EMA funding will be projected through all three governments funding that out of their general fund. So the funding, the budget for that is looking like $46,300 for the EMA operations cost, personnel cost $250,000, and the facility cost, which is their portion of the EOC that they will take, that's a percentage, is $49,991 for a total of $346,000. Now we're going to look at how we collect that fee and the infrastructure that has been given to us through Kenton County, and we've adapted to fit Madison County's needs. So the landline use fee 911 call data will be used to identify which classification type uses the 911 system the most and will allow for the distribution of the cost. We have classified this in two different categories. Residential farm, which is parcels provided permitted housing and would be calculated by the number of exterior primary entry doors. This includes parcels identified as farms. So you would say on your normal residential house, you might have 3 doors. We're only looking at the one door, the front door. So it's not a matter if you have 3 doors, you're going to get assessed a $75 fee per door. It's one parcel, one door. Now, with that being said, the non-residential, the parcels and that has been provided for businesses, industry, and storefronts would be calculated by the total square footage of all buildings on the parcel. Municipalities would be excluded from the parcel fee. So if you look down at the 0 to 1 door, it would have a flat rate fee of $75. And this, we will show you a slide that can be adjusted as you all see fit. We're just using $75 in this instance to show you the data that could be collected. So 0 to 1 doors would be a flat fee of $75. We have determined through Mr. Ackerman's PVA office that there is 33,982 billable doors in Madison County for that 0 to 1 door category. That brings in $2.548 million in that alone. And then you look at 2 to 30 doors at a $75 fee at a calculated rate of 8,283 billable doors, giving you a $621 amount of revenue. Now, there is also a max on this. Once you reach 16 doors in your apartment complex or whatever this category may be falling under, that would max out at 1,200. So we have identified 2,340 of those would pay the max of $1,200. Either way, this has been calculated out to equal these two numbers. Also for 30 plus doors at a $75 fee per door, we have 1,491 of those billable doors. 42 of those would be the max at $2,700 per complex, giving you $111,825 revenue. On the non-residential, same rate. This also can be adjusted. You can leave all this the same. You can adjust this. You can do whatever you would like to do. We're just giving you the data to be able to make that decision, an educated decision on that. So zero would be a $75 fee. We've identified 1,546 of those, collecting $115,000, $115,950. $1,000, sorry. 1 to 3,000 square feet would be a $500 fee, 323 of those, so on, based on the calculation, for a total of $4.397 million in revenue. Okay. So, like I was saying before, we looked at this $75 number in our data. There is also a $55 collection fee per year that can be. You all can make a decision based on the data we're given here. But I wanted you to pay attention to FY25 and FY26 because there is a reduction here drastically. We're going to look at the 55 and then we'll glance through the rest of it. So the landline use fee we said was $3,491,000 in revenue. The wired landlines currently we're projecting to be $250,000 in revenue. 911 wireless lines, $450,000 in revenue. EMS operations, $50,000, and we currently are getting reimbursed through CSEPT for. The EOC has EOC techs currently. As those EOC techs leave the job, we are asking our dispatch center to pick up the workload. Having said that, CSEPT has agreed that we still had to pay for this EOC tech. We recognize that you are doing the job. We're going to, in turn, give you a revenue source off of that. So once again, the CSEPT has chose to do that, and we've chose to take on the responsibility Wendy's staff has. So you notice in FY25, going to FY26, the landlines have been sunsetted at this point, and we will show you that data in a minute. We will collect that for 1 year, and then we will sunset that fee to not allow for people to pay twice if they did have a landline. So in FY26, we lose the $250,000. We lose the CSEPT because CSEPT is over in 2025. We're projecting roughly May, June, sometime for time frame in FY25 of that CSEPT being over. That is all subject to change. It could be sooner, could be just a little bit later, but most likely it will be over June of 2025. So looking at that, in the first year, we have a surplus of $4,553. Jumping to FY26, by using a $55 fee based on a year of your partial payment, you lose $418,000 in revenue, jumping from year 1 to year 2. So we went from a surplus to a deficit in 1 year. So this $55 is not adequate on the landline fee unless you do something immediately to jump that up in 2026. So when you look on down to $60 fee, also a deficit in year 2, $65 fee, small increase, but you lose a deficit of $53,000 in year 3, and $75 you continue a surplus for. You can see that it gradually decreases every year, but you still have time frame to figure out what we're going to do next. And it gives you a 3 to 4 years of data collected that gives you a better understanding of what you need to do going forward. Now, this could be somewhere in between here, and you still equal out good. That's a decision that you all make as elected officials. We just wanted to give you the data. Okay, now we're moving, that's the 911 fee assessed to the parcels of each resident. Now we're going to look at the calculating of the EMA fee. The EMA fee is the funding model that is cost shared between based on the number of public safety personnel budgeted to is funded by the local governments based on the allocation below. We believe that all jurisdictions will use the Madison County as their emergency management agency and is functioning and as it has functioned in the past. The staff will be reduced, facilities will be reduced, and a single emergency management agency's reduced complexity and reduce the opportunity for duplications of service. So we don't want to duplicate services by doing it individually. We want to fund one mechanism and allow that to work together. The model is most cost effective and operational effectiveness. If you look at this slide, the city of Richmond has 334 total responders in law enforcement and fire. The city of Berea has a total of 81. The Madison County has a total of 242 first responders. If you break that 100% down into each one of these, it's 29% Richmond, 18% Berea, 53% Madison County. So at the total expense down here of $346,000, we're looking at city of Richmond would provide in FY25 $101,000. City of Berea would contribute $61,000, and Madison County would contribute $183,000. This is, we believe, is a fair way to deviate that up based on the number of personnel responding. And also, we have showed a 6-year budget there that it gradually increases along the way, roughly 3% per year. Okay, the recommendations of the structure of the operations, the Public Safety Advisory Board will be creating and providing recommendations on standard operating procedures that align with the industrial standards and best practices for both department, as well as making recommendations to the fiscal court on budgetary concerns, the expenditures, and other public safety matters. So we're going to take the 911 service board that is in place now with the interlocal agreement, and we're going to change that up just a little bit to include some different players in that. And we'll show you the structure of that in 1 minute. The 911 becomes a county department, which is a currently joint operation now. It will become a county department. A new interlocal agreement will be passed by all 3 governments to outline the role of the Public Safety Advisory Board and the interaction between the advisory board and the department and the fiscal court. Staff will remain employees of Madison County Fiscal Court and will continue to follow the Madison County Administrative Code as it does today. All personnel, authority, and liability are a part of the fiscal court as they are today. Currently, some personnel authority is with the 911 board and would be transitioned to the fiscal court, such as the hiring and firing of personnel within the dispatch center. The fiscal court will act as the fiscal agency of the 911 fee. All fees collected will be held in a special 911 fund, as it is today, and funds collected from the 911 fee will be spent as directed by the KRS statute that we laid out for you. All financial authority falls to the fiscal court, as it does today. The EMA continues to operate as a county department. All funds collected for the 3 governments will be held in a special fund, and the funds collected from the shared EMA fee will be spent as directed by the fiscal court policy and recommendations of the Public Safety Advisory Board. The Madison County will establish a EMA fund. The Public Safety Advisory Board will have recommending policies, procedures, and statewide emergency operation plans. Now, to get to the structure of what we envision the new board looking like. The Public Safety Advisory Board will be made up of 14 members. 7 members will hold positions of the Executive Board, which will be voting body, and of the advisory board. 4 executive committee members will be appointed by position, with the 3 remaining executive committee members being voted on to be the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary position from the general membership. So if you look at the structure, the executive board made up of seven bodies. We have placed in this board city administrator for Berea, the city manager of Richmond, the deputy judge for Madison County, and the EMS director. Then out of the members, which is here, we will vote 3 members in to take these places. The ex officio members will be 911 director and the EMA director. These are non-voting members, but obviously their expertise in what we're doing needs to be at the forefront of our decisions. There is a 2-year term limit. After 2 years, the chair retires. The vice chair will move up, and the secretary will move up for 2 years, and we will be voting on replacing the secretary. The idea behind that is it takes a couple of years being in that realm to understand fully of what's going on. So we believe by moving the vice chair and the secretary up each year, they have a very good understanding of what has taken place, provided that they've been in those services for that amount of time, and they will just move up one level and continue the operation as it needs to be. Now, moving to the implementation steps, the City of Richmond and the City of Berea will pass a resolution requesting the physical court to enact a fee to each parcel by using the correct land use 911 fee category. Madison County Physical Court will pass an ordinance enacting the E911 fee labeled Berea Richmond Madison County fee on all property bills. We think that this is important to show the collaboration between the governments. It's all going to be listed together, and everyone will see that the same way. Property that has not been received property bills in the past will now receive one with only the E911 fee attached to it. So the nonprofits, everybody, we want everybody to share in this cost, because first responders obviously respond to everybody in the county, whether it's a farm with a vehicle accident or a tractor accident, or whether it's out on a business where somebody has had a medical emergency. Everybody gets emergency responders, so we need everybody to pitch in and help pay for this. Okay, the task force will continue to identify expenses and work to verify and implement the 911 fee with Madison County PVA office. We understand right now that the PVA office has areas of improvement within their collection of the data. There is a time frame in here that we will work with Billy and his crew to get that data very accurate, so that we can assess the property appropriately for the collection of the fee. We will be doing that once we decide whether this is the route we're going to be taking. The Public Safety Advisory Board will assume the role July 1st, 2024. At the same time, the 911 and the EMA departments will be officially become departments of Madison County. The E911 and the EMA will function under the current budget through June 30th, 2024. The property taxes will begin in October 2024 in anticipation of the needed funding for the closure of CSEP. Current landline fees will be sunsetted, as I spoke to earlier, December the 31st, 2025. So we're going to collect that landline fee for an additional year, just to give us a little buffer there of collecting the fees for the post CSEP process. And then we will sunset that out, and no one will have to pay that part of it again. There is also a sunset period for any parcel owner that is paying the current 911 landline fee may appeal to the Public Safety Advisory Board for a credit of the new 911 fee. So we would credit them their portion between the $42 that they're paying now and whatever you decide that's going to be implemented in the future, giving them their break that they deserve. Okay, the timeline is very, very critical here in order to get the bills out this year. To have the funds available to operate the 911 center at the end of CSEP, the governments need to enact the fee on the 2024 property tax bill. Collecting these funds now align with the anticipated completion of CSEP March-June 2025. Missing this window could cost each government a combined $3.6 million. So we have reached our February deadline. We are now in March, and we are here to provide you the data that you need to make your decision going forward. April the 2nd, we are looking for Berea to pass a resolution in support of the county placing this fee upon the property tax bill. April the 9th, we are looking for Richmond to pass the resolution also approving this fee. During the month of April also, we're going to start a campaign of communicating between everybody in the county, all citizens, of the importance of all of this and answering questions along the way. April 23rd, we're looking for the first reading to be implemented by the Madison County Fiscal Court. May 14th, Madison County's second reading, which is also a process of where citizens can speak to the county government based on what's taking place before that vote. May the 15th through the June the 30th, PVA data 911 fee verification, which we will, like I say, we're identifying that all of our data is correct and going out correctly. July the 8th, the state certifications of the PVA tax roll, and August 13th, the county certification of the tax roll and the 911 fee combined. In October through December, we start collecting the property fee that has been, we're saying it's the property tax collection, which, we all collect a tax, but this is a fee based upon the 911 land use. There is also a transitional leadership role on the Public Safety Board that we have chosen to take on ourselves. Chief Rodney Richardson is currently the chair of the 911 board. He will just move into the role of the Public Safety Advisory Board as the chair there. Myself would be the vice chair, and Mr. Tim Gray would be the secretary of the board. These can all be adjusted. I don't think either one of us care either way how that goes, but this is just something to put on paper. And that will take place in our regularly scheduled meeting in 2025. Let's see. So just a little final review of everything. I know that was a lot of data, a lot of questions are going to take place. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot that we have been fortunate to have, but we also have to focus on the future. So we will get to those questions. Let me do a final review here. We will enact and use a land density fee on each parcel of Madison County to cover the current and future expenses of Madison County E911. This reduces the financial burden on local government's general funds created by the end of the CSEP mission, ensuring that each citizen and business is paying their fair share. Today, the majority is not, including some of us, by not having a landline fee. These funds will pay for the operating the Madison County Emergency Communication Center and its related equipment for dispatching and 911 services to all of first responder agencies in Madison County. The Public Safety Advisory Board will be created to provide oversight for the operations of the Emergency Communication Center and provide recommendations of the Madison County Fiscal Court on operating standard procedures and technology trends and funding needed. The joint fund, the Madison County Emergency Management Agency, will maintain its current operations as EMA with funding provided by the three governments. The Public Safety Advisory Board will provide standard operating procedures, help develop and craft the county-wide emergency response plan, and provide recommendations to Madison County Fiscal Court on budget and procedures. Each government and agency in Madison County will need to provide the following. As I stated before, KRS only allows us to provide the 911 fee, can only fund infrastructure to do with the 911 radio system. So that would be on each government to provide the portable radios and the mobile radios that they use in all of their emergency service personnel. It includes the repair and the maintenance and the spare parts to maintain those devices as well. So that it will be on the local governments to do that. And we can budget appropriately for that. Now, we can open it up for discussion amongst the elected officials. The advisory board, we're prepared to ask answer any questions you may have. Yep. Yeah, I think we are prepared to send that out to each of you today and let you gather that. Oh yeah, no, we know how complicated this can be. Yeah.
Now, there's two separate fees, 911 fee and the EMA fee.
So there is a 911 fee that KRS dictates what can be spent for. That will be. We pay a landline fee of $42 per year currently if you have a landline in your home. This will be allowing for it to go on the tax bill, and we will sunset that landline fee to go away.
I mean, I think you're saying, do we share the cost right now? Personally, we do. It's split, we pay $200,000.
That is the 1 point. No, that will go away. Well, so let me get back to that slide. So currently, you will see that the wireless landline fees and the landline fees are paying for the 911 center. The governments are picking up 1.05 million separated equally. That goes away once we implement this fee based upon the property.
Now, does that money go to 911?
That money stays with the government. So are you referring to? I'm sorry, Mr. Brewer. Are you referring to the $1.05 million that you currently are investing? Yeah. If you're currently investing the money out of your general fund, that goes back to the general fund. We would no longer ask for that money if the fee is appropriate to cover the cost of 911 operations. The property fee will go to the 911 service. It can only go to the 911 service based on the statute. EMA is separate. We will cover that out of general fund.
And that amount will actually go down compared to what we put in.
Yes. So this year, no, it's good.
If it's $75 fee, and businesses have to pay per square foot, or that per door?
That would be the citizen for a normal residential home will pay per their front door. Business, a Walmart would be based on the square footage. They could pay up to $4,800 per year. It depends on the square footage of the business.
And like, let's say somebody owns 15 houses, they pay $71 per house.
$75 per door. If it's on separate parcels.
If not on the same.
If it's on the same parcel, it would still be per door. It could be evaluated as a 2 to 30 door, operation at $75 and still pay the $75, I guess. But until you met 16 places on one parcel, then it wouldn't be increased.
I mean, and this is just a personal opinion, but if we ask businesses and to tell them that they have to pay certain amount of money for 911 or EMA protection extra onto their cost of their business, it almost seems like it would stab it in the heart. With $4,800 extra tax, I won't say tax, I don't like that word, fee onto to their business. I mean, how can you
I think,
overcome that?
I mean, personally, I think when you're looking at a square footage of a business that is 125,000 square feet, as a Walmart would be, deviating that $4,800 up per item that's sold in the store would be less than a penny. I mean, it's a very minute when you're talking of a scale of that nature, I believe. Obviously, some of the others could be, some of your small businesses. Maybe you could get into a very good conversation with that. That's like I say, we're just providing the data for you all to discuss and make a recommendation to the county, more or less.
And if it's okay, I
Yeah,
would say
please.
too, that you think about how many calls we answer to Walmart. Let's just use Walmart as an example. How many calls come in 911 and how much time our first responders spend at Walmart. Right now, if you look at other communities, they've probably been paying for this as they go. So it's probably been included like in their tax bill and as they go. But because we're dealing with a different situation where we're losing that funding, now we have to figure out a way to pay for it. So I think if those Walmarts were in other communities, they probably would have already been paying for that with their tax bill. And so we're doing it different.
Other communities that have a 911, I'm sorry, EMA fee or a 911 fee already.
Yes. Boone County, Kenton County, and there was another one. Which one? McCracken County. I thought there was another one on top of it. So yes, this has already been used in other areas to fund 911. I believe Kenton was 75, wasn't it?
They went
71.
down, yeah.
Okay, so somewhere around there, and I'll give this back.
Yes.
I guess that's true, but one of the things that I was thinking about is for the businesses in particular, the burden that it's going to be placing on smaller businesses. When I remember just recently, Chief Hayes gave his presentation to the city of Berea, and Walmart was one of the top 4 places to respond to. And so it feels like some of these major commercial or industry, $4,800 is a drop in the bucket for them, but for small businesses, $500 or $600 is a big chunk. So I don't know, is there a strategy to that upper limit, or are we just copying what other folks are doing or something?
I think that we have taken what Kenton County has done and modeled it and made it fit Madison County's needs. There's obviously room to adjust. I think that's a discussion that one of you all have.
John?
Yes.
What about a storage warehouse where there not really many people working, but it's huge square footage, and all they do, there wouldn't be that many calls there like there would to Walmart, so they're going to be taxed on the same rate?
Well, that's a good question, Jerry. That is a good question. I think that there always can be exceptions to what you put in place, but we would need to look at those exceptions and say, and you as an elected official could say, okay, we're going to separate this out, or let's put it on the table for discussion and see what the group decides to do. We're just, like I say, we're just laying out the very basics. There's some details that need to take place, and
Card factory used to be down there, and Ryder's got it now.
Yeah.
And I think it's 45,000 square foot, but it's just storage. I mean, it's not that many people working, and you don't get that many police calls.
right. Mr. Cottle? I'm sorry, Miss. Go ahead.
Am I understanding that there won't be any exemptions from this other than government, like churches will be paying this, Berea College will be paying this, people who have had exemptions in the past?
That is very correct.
Okay.
If they do not receive a property tax bill, they will now receive one with the 911 fee only on that bill.
Sean, you mentioned for 4 or 5 years, there's going to be a surplus of income revenue. Where does that revenue go?
So that surplus will be held into the 911 fund at the Madison County. Under that fund is obviously audited every year, and you can see and track that. Something that you all could do is put a cap on that surplus, or depending on what that fee looks like, of how much you want to keep in surplus, and then it automatically dictates something else. That's all discussions that need to take place amongst the elected officials. Each government will be charged a fee in their general fund to pay for 911 services, and the replacement of these costs and the upgrades that go along with it. That's what we envision. We don't know what else you might come up with, but if we don't deviate this out, then the governments have to pay for it. We have to have a radio system. Like I was saying before, it is a heartbeat of the emergency services in Madison County. If we can't communicate, then we can't hardly do our job. If you take the incident we had the other day at Madison Southern High School, communication is key. That turned out really well. Let's just put that this way. If it had not turned out well, communications was still the key to make sure that we do our job appropriately.
John, to answer your question, can you go back to the budget and show what each entity together combined is going to have to come up with right here? That kind of gives them the idea of what kind of fees they're going to be facing without some
Whoops.
slaves.
Yeah. So we're saying if we miss the window, or if we choose not to get this on the 24 tax bill, the governments would have to come up with $3.6 million out of their general fund, deviating that up however you all choose. But we need $3.6 million in 25.
Hey,
Which
Sean.
does not include the infrastructure planning to replace the 15 years.
No. That is the goal. Yes.
So once we do that, what I'm trying to figure out the separation of EMA and 911. In my brain, that's a good question, Mr. Brewer. I'm going to answer that by what I've recently learned, based on some of the classes I've been to. So if there's a disaster in the county, if there's a disaster in the city, for example, the state will send you representatives here. Within 72 hours, is that what they're going to respond? And if it's big enough, you know, FEMA could respond. Well, who they're going to deal with if that happens is the county. So they're going to be at the county level and say, you know, we're going to give you all so much money in reimbursement for this natural disaster, but it's going to go through the county. So if each entity has their own EMA, basically all we're doing is adding another step of red tape to get what funding could be emergency status at the time. So it's what we thought was, hey, if we basically man EMA at the county side, it goes directly to them. It's only for 2 personnel too. That budget was only for
Three.
3 people. Your EMA director, the assistant director, and an admin person. Just so there's the EM director goes on vacation, they got somebody back. So we try to minimize it, I think, best we could. That's a good question though, because nobody really knows how that works unless we get into something terrible, and then we're sitting going, oh man, we didn't know we had to do it this way.
Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Did you talk about that surplus? How many years you say it would be for that we had a surplus?
So if it depends on the fee that is assessed. If we or I keep saying
Did you say
we,
five?
but we are not. If you, as elected officials, choose to assess I cannot stay on the right thing. If you choose to assess a $55 fee per year per parcel, you become deficient in your surplus in FY26. You're only gaining a surplus of $553 in year one.
But most of the time, the costs don't stay the same. The cost always goes up over the year. You know,
That's
in government, you don't have too many surplus. You've got deficits in it.
that.
So
Mhm.
it's a little bit to say we're going to have a surplus when how do we know what the cost is going to be when? I'm just curious. Thank you.
No, that's a very good question, and I think that you, as a local officials or elected officials, would want to look at the fee based on the 65 or 75, and either have that gradually increase over the years, or you assess like say a 75 and have a time frame to figure out what you want to do in the future years. This is all you can tweak this however you please, Mr. Cottle.
There is a surplus in that, but it's $2 million. I mean, if we have one thing happen in a 6-year period, that's not gonna be a surplus. The other thing is that if we incrementally try to increase it, that's gonna require the burden on county magistrate to make a vote on this every other year. And having fees, whether it's property tax, 911 fees, that's never fun for anybody. And it never goes well, ever.
Right.
I've never seen a fee pass that people jump up and start cheering. And so the reality is that if we don't do something, I think $75, again, I don't want it, but the reality also for us is that we're a unicorn in that Madison County has to pay for DNA ever. I mean, we haven't. It's been something that the federal government helped us with because we have this little gas at our back door. But I think we probably need to pull the Band-Aid. I think it does make sense if we want to look at the 14 businesses that fall under $125,000 or $125,000 each. It's not enough to really worry about, and I think when we start looking at them, most of those are gonna be large corporations. In fact, it might be interesting to look and see what those are, because that might need to go up. Maybe those should be higher, and then maybe we should look at things like storage units and say, we make them a lower rate because they don't have people. Although it would be interesting to know from a fire agency, where the fire, what's the cost of that? A lot different than if my house was. But
Right.
when all this is said and done, I don't think we have much of an option, and, all see us making incremental increases to do this, I think we probably need to look at 6-year plan, because if we don't, we're one incident away from being, pretty big burden on the city.
I will say that the cost of some of the things that could go wrong is built into this because we have an agreement with the radio system, which is part of that 800 and something $1,000 that you're looking at. Some of that stuff is included within that agreement, right? So yes, there could be something else that goes wrong that would cost us that $2 million in year three, and we wouldn't have it, and we would have to come up with it. So your point is very valid, but there is some room in the agreements and the Chris, can you help me on the radio maintenance plan? Yeah.
You also gotta remember, you're taking $675,000 and putting it into the capital fund. That could be used as some sort of disaster. That, at the end of the 15 years, it's supposed to bring in $13 million. So you will have funds available to you. I don't think it's quite that strapped, if you did have some snap.
You know, one of the things, utilities, a lot of speaks and good thing, problems and move on is exceptions. Start down that road, let's make it good,
Yeah.
And I don't think the citizens, based upon E-911 and the services that they expect, will want to have a lot of resistance, hopefully, in the next situation like this.
I gotta ask one other question, and I apologize. I didn't, I'm not sure which one brought it up about, churches and the university and colleges paying this fee, and there's no, Rob, help me out here. Do we collect taxes from Eastern Kentucky University? And do we know what that, is each year? So we only, and then when we put this fee on there, does that fee go towards each building that EKU has? But, I mean, like if they had 1,400 buildings on their campus, which I'm just throwing that out there, maybe it's 800, I don't know. So each,
Total square footage per parcel. So if they maxed out on that parcel, where the square footage was, that's all they did. So they can give you those 12 parcels.
Yeah.
for EKU, 12 parcels at what cost though, per parcel?
But it maxes out. It doesn't just keep going up. It ceilings out at, I think, 2,700 or 4,800, right? Yeah, so
So they could be paying $4,800 extra
per parcel.
per parcel. So when you got 14 parcels times 48.
60 grandish.
Yeah, and the churches, there's figured on, their parcel too, how big it is and. How much money do we think that this total is going to generate each year for E911? I saw the one figure. We're talking about 13 million. 3 million.
You do the 75, 4.3 million.
How much?
4.3 million.
4.3 million a year. And each of the, regardless of how that's paid, it still comes out of taxpayers' dollars. Because we collect the money and we spend the money. It's not our money. And if we spend it the other way, is that $3.6 million per agency? I mean, per government? If we spend it the other way out of tax dollars, or is that a total for?
You talk about the 3.6 million
How
Yeah,
much?
that you would be short if you don't do something. You're gonna have to fund that out of property tax dollars. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other way, we're actually collecting 4-point-something million dollars a year.
Yep.
Out of taxpayer funded money. And then, if we collect it the other way, just on our own collection, then we're collecting $3.6 million of taxpayers' money that we're going to spend back to 911 or EMA, right? So we're short $1 million.
which does not include the replacement cost of the system, which is the biggest majority of these costs. So yes, you're right. That would be deviated up somehow, the $3.6 million, but it doesn't include the future replacement of them, of that.
Commissioner Brewer, I think your EMA, fund EMA between three governments, I'm good. We currently fund EMA between the three governments
Right.
equally. So what we're looking at, we haven't funded 911 because that's been supported by CSEP. Is it the opposite? Okay, sorry.
It's the opposite.
I got the opposite. So actually the cost, if we don't implement this, the cost between the three governments would be $1.2 million.
About each.
Yeah, each in the next fiscal year budget to cover the cost.
So you went from paying 170-ish thousand this year to 1.2 million next year.
That you have to take out of whatever collection method you have.
Whatever, yes.
And this would give you a different collection method, because like they're saying right now, the 3.6 does not include the money that we will need to replace the system in 15 years. So then we would have to figure that out as well, how to come up with roughly $13 million.
Okay, then what does the $3.6 million cover?
It covers the operations, just operations.
The 3 employees,
No, it's 911 operations,
you're talking about,
the whole 911 operation.
So the 3.6 million, it went up so much is because currently the radio system is funded by CSEP. Well, after CSEP's gone, it just makes sense to put that in 911 because that's who utilizes it with all responders and all agencies. So that would be the 3.6, and it just covers their current infrastructure for it, those buildings, the maintenance, battery replacements, and all that through the maintenance contract. And then it starts building for a system replacement again in 15 years. And I was glad someone said $2 million wasn't a lot because currently we upgrade our CAD system every third year, and it's a $300,000 upgrade that we usually split a lot of those costs, which we won't be doing. But if we were to do a complete CAD replacement, which we've talked about with technology to allow our responders to get a lot of things through the cloud and store things properly and get away from what we've got, that's a $2 million cost that 911 would intake to help get those replacements with an entire CAD system. So in the future, we just done the CAD upgrade. Currently, we're in the process, and we received a grant for that. But if grant funding's not there, that would have been an additional cost to the governments coming up, and the same in the other budgets. So there's a lot of $2 to $3 million costs that this will help fund in the future, because until the state mandates it, you're really not sure. Just like when they done the GIS mandate, and we're still trying to get those things done, and there's only so much grant funding for it. So we've just been very fortunate that we've been able to pay for some of those things because CSEP offset the other costs, because while they're paying for this great training, giving us the money for the sirens and all of the alerts and things that we're able to do for the citizens, 911 was able to do those upgrades if we didn't get grants for it. So it was very beneficial. So losing them, there's a lot of costs that we don't see every day because we didn't even have to budget for it, like the UPS that we have outside that's mandated in order to stay accredited. You know, if something happens and we need the UPS and the generators, those are hundreds of thousands of dollars cost, and the fuel for those generators, and they automatically kick on because, you know, we have dead areas of electric during the day when the dirty electric comes by. So sometimes we automatically switch to those things flawlessly, and we're fortunate that we can because we've had CSEP. So we just don't want to lose anything and any integrity in the 911 center, no matter where we're going, because I mean, we serve everybody in Madison County, and currently that radio system, every school bus driver, everybody that works for the animal shelters, the street departments, EKU, right down to public parking, they have a radio, and on that radio portable, they are able to talk to us at 911 on a 911 talk group. And a lot of agencies don't have that, and we'll still be able to maintain that. Now, if they drop their portable and something happens, the university would pay for it or an officer. But as soon as they got it, they'd be right back on the system, and they would still have access to us. When we have snow emergencies, anybody can make contact. Several times school bus garages have been out in areas where their cell phones don't come in, and so they will radio the 911 talk group to let us know, you know, they've been in an accident or there's an obstruction in the roadway. So it at the end of the day, I mean, I have to pay the fee too, and I don't have a landline, and I've not paid my fair share like everybody else, but I still use the service. And you know, and you don't know when you're going to need it, but I guarantee you that moment when you have to call, like I have, I would have, if I had $1 million of my own, I would give it to get someone there quick. And it's not just law enforcement that always responds. I mean, we're talking EMS, and sometimes you're, you know, way out in the county, and you want to make sure when they get on that scene and they're pulling somebody from a ravine that those responders can talk to you. So the biggest cost is the radio system, but we have to have it. There's no other option right now. Yeah, it gets complicated. So the way the 911 fee for cell phones work is, and that is the majority of our calls, 80 to 90%, and rising. I have a plan at AT&T. I have a plan, and I have 6 phones on it. I pay one flat fee of, I think it's 79 cents per plan. That goes to the state. They have a state 911 board, and then they allocate those fees out to put money aside for us to apply for competitive grants that we compete for, and to pay for their staffing and some of the state regulated things they've done, like rapid deploy and things, and they pay those costs. Out of that, we get 23 cents.
Is it structurally different
It is, yes, because it's per plan by zip code. So anybody in Madison County, just because you live here, if your phone plan's not here, you're not contributing any cell phone fees. So if you have students that have come in, or anybody working here, or if you just have your fee on somebody else's plan, if it's not a Madison County fee, you don't get money for it.
I was just wondering because the landline is such a small percentage.
It is. And when I started, yes, in 2008, when I started, we got over $1 million from landlines because it's $3.50 per landline plan. Yes. And so over time, it's dwindled and we never took that up because it really wasn't fair because someone didn't have a home phone and they're already paying $3.50.
How hard is it to transition from the 911 landline piece to make it applicable to cell phone?
Because there are two different entities, because the cell phone's collected by the state. The landline is local government. So over time, we could have took that $3.50 fee up when everybody, and we did in 2010. That's when we went to $3.50. So we could have sunsetted, a little bill in for us to just increase that all the time, but it wasn't fair because fewer and fewer people are paying for that. But the cell phone fees, we have no control over whatsoever. And we only get that because we're the only PSAP in this county, the public safety answering point. So that's state mandated. So we can't collect exactly the same for landline and transition it over because their landlines are going away. By 2026 to 2027, there won't even be landline fees, so it would be zero anyway. We're just trying to get ahead of it and then sunset it out so we're not punishing those people that kept their landline.
I think to answer your question, Kelly, is we don't have the authority as a local government to assess fees to cellular phone companies. That would have to happen at the state and federal levels.
I don't understand the difference of how we can do it to landlines locally and not cell phones. And I understand they're created different in the different technologies, but it's just common sense that, this is all the phones now, that needs to be moved over here.
I agree.
It would be ideally, if you could do it by zip code, by building or whatever. And, big cell companies have plenty of money to manage and.
Yeah. I agree.
We would have to, they would have to pass statute to the state that would allow us to do that. That's never.
Yeah, and the state's tried to do that. The state kind of board, but as you said, they have a lot of money, so they can lobby not to pay more and assess the fee a little bit better than
So
we
it's
did.
not the first time that's.
Exactly, yes, exactly.
Just feel like the timing, in my mind, I'm thinking about the timing. Am I right that this would start like with the tax bills that go out for this fall, which October, November, whatever that timing is? I feel like one of my concerns is, and I'm just speaking for Richmond, but I don't think that we have notified like our nonprofits and EKU. I don't feel like we've done a good job of educating them that their budgets that start July 1, which are pretty much already set. You know, if you look at like an EKU or a nonprofit or even, like government entities, pretty much have worked on their budgets and they're kind of sort of in place for July 1. So I guess in my mind, I'm just thinking if they don't have this budgeted, and I realize that was probably up to us to give them a heads up on that, but I don't think we've done it. They may not have the money in their budget. If you look at a church or a nonprofit or EKU, which I just tried to do some rough math for EKU, you're talking a significant chunk of money that I don't know if that's in their budget for July 1 or not. So the logistics of it, I'm trying to work out in my mind.
I think that I would agree, but I think there is a time frame here that allows us to communicate with them prior to their budget being implemented or even being constructed. If we get on this quick, if we could decide as a elected official body to move forward with some level of this, then the communications can start. But to go along with that, my personal opinion is we should have started this 5-10 years ago. But we're here now, and we've got to move forward in some level. But that's kind of.
So just one other quick question. And I just, as elected officials, like I really believe that public safety is our first priority, and everything else comes after that. So I take public safety very serious. And I know you touched on the advisory board, but I'm just thinking from a city of Richmond perspective and the obligation, that we have as elected officials to make sure we're doing the right thing around public safety. Nothing is more serious than that. So the input that we would have would be 2 slots on that advisory board. Is that correct?
One slot as far as Mr. Meinrich would go, and then an elected it could be one of your other spots on that voting body. Yes, let me slide to that real quick. So you would have one slot as Mr. Meinrich, and then out of this group, you may get your fire chief or your police chief also in one of these spots. So yes, two members.
No entity can hold two seats either, Commissioner Cole.
No entity can hold more than three. So they can hold two, but they cannot hold three.
So
That's a discussion. I think I don't know how this meeting is supposed to operate. I don't know if the citizens can speak or if it's the elected officials, but elected officials, then I would have to say that the elected officials have the right to speak at this body. If you want to speak with one of your local officials and get them to ask the question,
If his elected official to speak, that's a really good question that gentleman asked. I feel like that should be a citizen on that board.
then
That's just my opinion.
then we have the opportunity with the interlocal agreement, the new interlocal agreement, to put that in place. That's totally your all's decision.
And please remember, this is not set in stone. This is our recommendation that we
Yes.
have worked on, but this is all going to be up to changes and recommendations from the fall to help us to make it work.
Judge?
And I would also add too, that if we're gonna call local citizen. This is public safety. It's public safety. So if your person that you put on this board, I would make sure they're very versed in public safety, or they have a background where they understand what's going on. So just caution yourself with that.
Yeah, to be able to put input into the group, I think they would need to have a background in the emergency services.
And if I-
Steve, hold on one second. Let me get Judge. He's been patiently waiting.
And thanks, Chief. Backing up a little bit with Pam, comments there. Would there be any chance that, how the financial model was done, projecting out the years, that maybe whenever you send out the PowerPoint to all the elected officials before you do that, maybe that you could add the financial spreadsheet on if we didn't implement it until next year?
Yes.
So that if it's the pleasure of the elected bodies to do this, but we did not set the fee until, October, start paying it of October of 2025, what that, 6-year projection would be. Obviously we're gonna be light in the first year, but then if you made it back up, maybe possibly over the next 5 years.
Yes.
Could the group do that in that financial model?
I think we have that data already. We just didn't implement it into the presentation, but yeah, well, I think we can definitely provide that. Mr. Cottle?
Time passed, I'm good.
Oh. Sorry.
The advisory board, what that is. They're not gonna hire, get the idea of putting somebody, again, the idea of putting an elected official on there even, like, no offense, you don't want my opinion on how to save the fire. You just don't. I can help you with finances, but I can't keep the house from burning down. And all of the entities would move to the county as an agency, and no different than any other agency of the county, they would have the ability to hire, fire, manage. There would still be that ability to have elected representation in the control of this. And, I get the Public Safety Advisory Board. We do want to have as much citizen engagement in these things as possible, but that was a great point of, I don't know that I want somebody to vote who's never responded to a fire, who's never, had a shots fired situation. Again, you don't want my opinion on that stuff. And I think, my point is they're not going to be making the decisions of controlling that agency any different than the fire department, right?
Right.
It's not going to be all in all authority any different than any other agency? That's my point.
It is basically looking at standard operating procedures per entity and reviewing those yearly and making sure that they're still accurately being implemented in the center and being accurately implemented in the at the emergency scene, more or less. And the budget recommendation.
Advisory board, are they gonna be making financial decisions?
No, not any longer.
Financial decisions?
It's a recommendation. We are only going to be an advisory board. Everything that goes, so we will be making recommendations based upon future projects to the county. But it's does it fully.
They always are financial. What can you afford? That's very important. I mean, we'd like all these Cadillacs now. We have to go in without a Volkswagen now. So just my opinion. But they make no financial decisions, the board.
The new board does not make financial decisions, just recommendations to the fiscal court.
Well, that's one thing that each government and agency will have to absorb as well, is the cost of their own radios. So like our police chief in our upcoming budget, he'll budget for 5 mobile radios and 3 portable radios. Before, we never paid for any of that CSEP. So that's cost incurred by governments and agencies.
Yes, Mr. Bach.
Being one of the, if I'm wrong, please speak up, but being one of the 2 elected officials in this room that has gone through the tax fee imposed on, it's very, very ugly. Having survived that, it was done through, in my opinion, public safety. So that was the number one thing. I think that the part where the screen that you had, Sean, where you were implementing different type fees, I don't like that. The fee has got to be, we've got to decide what the fee is up front. If it's $75, if that's what it takes to cover our cost, then that's what it needs to be. You do not, I don't care what seat you're sitting in, you do not want to have to go back to the public every year, every other year, and say, hey, we got this wrong, we're going to have to raise this. We do not want to do that. Let's get this right the first time. I also think that the discussions that were had about implementing additional costs to box stores, Myers, Walmart, I think those are very legitimate, simply because they have the way to pass that cost on. Listen, regardless, I don't care what store it goes to, everybody in this room is paying that. Everything, they're not paying that. That's not coming out of their profit. Everybody in this room is going to pay that. So I think that for those larger entities, I think that a larger fee should be imposed upon them. The mom and pop stores, that's a different story. You know, it's harder for you to pass on if you're on a small store. It's harder for you to pass on an increase like that to customers when you're on your cost. So I think that I would look at the adjustments to those, whether that's a large store or a small store. I definitely want to get that right. The one other thing that I have a concern about is the fact of when you're talking about 3 different entities and 3 possibilities for long-term radio upgrades. Well, how do you make sure that everybody is upgrading and implementing the same systems? That's a biggie right there, because you may look to say, well, I can save some money if I put in this radio, and then only to find out that radio doesn't talk to the rest of them. So you have to be very careful when you're talking about that. And I think that's something that could come through the advisory board on the type of systems that you need to integrate that make them work with everybody. But if we don't do anything else, let's make sure that we get this part of it right. You only want to have to do this one time. And it is the magistrates. Everybody has a face. You will have a face. You'll send your letter up. But I'm just, ultimately, we're the ones that's going to sit in front of the camera and vote yes. We're the ones that's going to take the phone calls from it. So, and I can tell you that's not free.
Ms. Wilson.
say square footage, but you could also, just a thought here from the utilities, you could have large commercial. You could have small commercial. And you can break it down that way, and when you do, it doesn't sound like, okay, large commercial, Walmart. Industrial, you can do the same way. It's done that way on a utility. So I'm just going back to that. But large, industrial, they had a different set of things for billing. So at the same point, you could use that and do it that way, and then when it's broken down, then it doesn't sound like, well, I'm having to pay what Walmart does, and I have a storage building. So you could actually do that, Tom, and make it, might be a suggestion, something to think about.
I agree with you. I feel like that in some manner we have done that, but we've just based on what is large industrial versus small industrial. There is a square footage. Is there an employee? What is large industrial versus small industrial look like? I think we've decided that is based upon the square footage, whether it's large industrial or small industrial or whatever. There's numerous ways, like you had said. This is just one way that we chose to model.
Just a suggestion.
No, you're exactly right. There is other options.
Y'all done a lot of hard, good work. Good work put into this, and I really appreciate it. But it's a pretty big pill you're wanting us to swallow pretty quick. And, that's just, that's my big concern. There's a lot to digest here, and all my questions, I don't even have all my questions yet sitting here. I mean, you send this PowerPoint out, we'll have more questions.
Yes. Yeah.
Sean, when you talk about the cost sharing for EMA, how's that determined?
We determined that based upon the amount of emergency responders per government. So we look at the law enforcement and we look at the fire. Like say we have 66. We have volunteer firemen that's included in this, and we have paid staff of 24 people. So our fire department is made up, including our volunteers, to get to these numbers. I'm sorry, that was Richmond. I'm sorry, ours is 48. We have 24 paid and then 24 volunteers. And the police department has 33 certified officers in Berea. Richmond has 68 certified officers. We're saying Madison County, as far as the sheriff's office, we're looking at that. And then for a total of 242 for.
So what happens if that changes in the future? Does that model still stay as far as the percent based on the number of employees? So that will have to be
that's the way it
revisited
is,
at
2-3 years, however you choose as a local body.
I just want to make a statement. First of all, I think I've heard it from several people. I think if it's our number one priority would be public safety. Many people said that very well. I want to commend this advisory because you were faced with a very difficult task and put in a difficult situation. We want to maintain public safety, but what I wrote down when I went through the presentation, and I will say this, you want it to be as fair as possible. Nothing can be totally fair. Nothing's going to be perfect. We have to do the very best that we can. And the staff work that you all did, I think, gets us there, in my opinion. What I saw is that you were focused on reducing costs, and you did that with this proposal. You wanted to eliminate duplication of services. You did that in this proposal. You wanted to join together to create economies of scale. That's very obvious in this whole presentation. And to determine a fair way to pay for 911 and emergency management, the fairest method possible. And you put that forward for us, so I commend you for your efforts. I know it was difficult, Sean. You've been in the hot seat all day, so hats off to you.
Thank you.
I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. Again, I think that we have to have a way to pay for this. We can't say we're going to do a second rate emergency management or a second rate 911. We have a standard that we and our citizens have become accustomed to. And I very much, Jerry took the words right out of my mouth. And we've had a Cadillac, haven't we? We've had a Cadillac. We've had that paid for. We didn't have to pay for it. Do we need the Cadillac? No. Do we need that good solid Chevrolet? Yeah, that's what we need. And I think that's what you've done. So from my perspective, thank you for the work that you did. It's been difficult. We put in a difficult position, but I think you come up with some well thought out recommendations based on really good staff work and communication. Thank you.
There's an old comment, say how in charge you are, and, I commend the group for the work that they've done. I think if there's one thing we can take out of this, and I've heard this for years, and I haven't been down here for years. I've just been down here since 15. Oh, you can't work with Berea. Oh, you can't work with Richmond. Oh, you can't work with the county. We just saw the perfect example of what we can do together.
I just wanted to add one more thing, Sean, and that was the mention of a citizen on the advisory board. I'm not sure that I wanted a citizen on the advisory board, but to Mr. Vincel's point, I asked him to come today. I talked to him last night, and I think that each one of us as elected officials have that responsibility to the people that we represent to talk to them and to let them know what's going on and to get their opinions on things like this. You know, he had some good discussions with him last night that are things that to some degree were implemented on different scales, but I do appreciate the fact that we have civilian input from our citizens coming into things like this. Also agree that you guys have done an outstanding job on this. You're in a very tough spot. And the fact is, we're going to have to pay for this stuff. I mean, that's all there is to it. We're going to have to pay for it. And if you've ever had the ambulance show up at your house in the middle of the night, you don't care to pay $75. I can tell you right now. If you've ever had the police show up at your house in the middle of the night, or in broad daylight for that matter of fact, $75, you are not worried about paying that. So I appreciate the work that everybody's done to it. And Dean, thank you for coming today.
Yeah.
Are you good with that, Sean?
I'm just
So,
here as a.
y'all know I've been in this county just as long as you, Sean, Wendy. We all started with this radio project back in the day. Some of us aren't here anymore. Some of us are new that don't know it. I know it just like you do. I've been here a long time. We've kicked this can down the road for a long time. Like you said a minute ago, this should have been addressed 5-10 years ago. The talks were there, but we didn't start moving forward. And I think we're moving forward kind of late in the game on it. And kind of like a minute ago, she said EKU might not be able to put this in their budget for next year. There's a lot of people that have budgets that they have to put that stuff in. The citizen thing, it's just like the county. They put somebody on the airport board. Well, you want somebody that knows something about airplanes and aircraft and stuff like that when you put people on boards like that. Same thing, Rodney, you said a minute ago that you want somebody in public safety, okay? There's people out there that can do that need to be, not part of any agency of this county. Just a person, just like my fire department board. I have to have 2 citizens from my taxing district that are on my board, 3 that are appointed by the county, and then 2 that are firefighters. Okay, you want a citizen on that board to have equal, representation from the county. That's the only thing I'm saying. Not that I would be a perfect example, and I would possibly be interested in being on that board if you decide to do it. That's somebody you need to look for if you decide to go that way. Just don't put, mayors and fire chiefs and police chiefs, mix it up a little bit when you have this going forward. That way people out there in the community know what's going on. Tom said a minute ago, it's not that I'm opposed to it. Okay. I'm for this fee. Okay. I know that we need it. I'm not against the $75, but some of the stuff that bothers me are the prices in it.
I think $850,000 for radio operations and maintenance is a high fee. I think that needs to be broke down. Wendy, I'm good with your budget. I know what it takes to run 911. Okay, it takes a lot of money. But I think that life cycle replacement 675,000. I think we need breakdowns on these numbers, and that's just my opinion. There's a lot of equipment in this county. Is that equipment going to be dispositioned by CSEP to the departments? I mean, we've got generators, we've got hazmat trailers. Is all that stuff that hasn't even been talked about today? Are the cities and the county going to have to absorb that and take over that stuff to take care of that? Or is emergency management going to keep it? And is this broke down in this? That's the stuff that I want to talk about.
I think that's very valid points that you've made. I'm sure the group will discuss that in the future. I appreciate your comments, Dean. I will say that Dean was a retired Richmond firefighter. He's been involved in the radio system for numerous years. He works on the towers for us, I think, sometime right now. So he does have a very good background in the system. So,
Sean, if you got just a second,
Yes, sir.
on Dean's question there, a lot of that stuff, Dean, the hazmat equipment, hazmat trailers, that's been dispositioned as we speak to those entities. We've reached out to Richmond Fire if they want to keep their stuff that's been purchased. If they want to keep it, they have a grant year it falls under, we disposition it over to that department. So a lot of that stuff, the hazmat equipment, some of that will be going to the individual departments that have that, same way with the generators, that kind of thing. EMA will keep some things, but majority of that will be going to the agencies that have those equipment.
My question is, part of that, if that equipment's dispositioned out, you don't have to pay for that or maintenance on it. That's something
That department will be.
right. And so part of this money for what we're keeping.
Everything that's listed on this under the radio is only radio equipment. Structure and the infrastructure to keep that radio system working. None of the EMA stuff is listed on the 911 fee.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that if it's costing $875,000 and then we have increases, total increases year after year, I want to make sure it's spent on our radio system if it costs that much. Or does it really cost that much and it's going to be $500,000? I know you're going to keep the guy probably on site that's going to take care of it. But part of that $875,000, is that going to go towards the Essential Protected Radio Network? Is it going to go towards running fiber to our sites? What is that going?
The 875,000 is maintenance only. Maintenance and a 5-year, 10-year, and 15-year replacement. The cores have to be replaced every 6 to 7 years for $850,000 to $900,000 a piece. How about you? I'm not walking up to these government bodies and saying, "Hey, I need another $1 million." By the way, those fees are in that $890,000 you're talking about. And late yesterday afternoon, we got the newest pricing. They changed the model. It's worse. It's even higher. What can we do to reduce that? That's what this task force does, and I think we'll do a great job of looking at what that costs and trying to figure out exactly what you can get rid of in that maintenance. Today, like he said, we have the Cadillac maintenance plan. We have a guy that sits in that building there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and is at our beck and call. Is that necessary? Absolutely not. This proposal actually includes coming down to a part-time person that's there 1 or 2 days a week, still on call. So you got to remember, if Richmond Fire has a problem in their truck, that maintenance fee is going to send that guy under that fee to look at their truck and see what's wrong with that radio. Now, if the head end unit is broken and it's not under warranty, Richmond's going to have to pay for the head end unit, right? But that maintenance fee will cover to put it back in and replace it, right? So you're not paying that fee, but they got to pay for the equipment. So I think when you get a breakdown of that and you see what those costs are, Dean, because obviously you're familiar with it, it'll make a little more sense as to why that's so high.
And again, I'm not against this. $75 doesn't mean that I know the citizens of the county aren't going to like it.
A lot of them aren't like it that you pay 42 and I don't pay my 42.
Right.
Or with Wendy, I'll just put it on her record, or my 350 or my 76 cents because it's out of Ohio.
Is there anything else we need to get done today? I want to see what else is on the agenda so we can move forward.
I think the group would just need to know that we're willing to move forward with a landline use density fee. And we can, Ms. Beverly might want, or Chris or somebody. Go ahead.
Mr. Meinrich and I were talking, we were having a little side conversation, but it was for good reason. And that was exactly the question that you're getting at. What is next? And so I guess, we have a timeline of what we need, and the next thing would be a resolution from the city of Berea on April 2nd, and then following April 9th for the city of Richmond. And that would mean that we would need to know, hopefully everyone's feeling comfortable enough for us to go forward. We'll be the first ones out to have the resolution. And I think that would be with our legal counsel to help formulate an interlocal agreement and those resolutions. And so I would just open the discussion on that part of it right now, and if anybody else has anything to add.
Because if we're not comfortable with it, and we're talking about kicking the can down the road to 2025, we need to budget the 1.2 million for government to cover this cost in the next year. So that's where we are. We just need your direction as elected officials.
From my perspective, I'm prepared to move forward. I think that we need to get all this set in motion. I think we need to have all the draft documents, and if there's some tweaks along the way, we can do that. There's a process when we go through each one of our meetings where people can offer amendments, there's discussion, we can have additional work sessions, but looking at the timeline, I think time's of the essence. And quite frankly, with the city of Berea budgeting an extra 1.2 million, I don't know what we're gonna find. We have to put services in some other way. So I think we need to move forward, we need to move forward now. That's not something, all about my counterparts. I'm ready to move forward.
I think that our commission, first of all, our board of commissioners, needs to be certain among ourselves, along with the city manager, that we're comfortable how it's going to impact what we do, looking at budgets for the next year or two, and deciding with what we're already doing how this obligation then will work into our doing. So I really think, and I'm with my friend Mayor here, but and to move forward, but I think we need to work out some of the details to be certain there's nothing that bites us down the road.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Mr. Brewer. We're prepared to send that information out to you so you can make an educated decision and moving forward a plan. But just know that time is of the essence. So we just need to be conscious of that.
April the 9th, right?
More or less. But if what you do might affect others, so we just kind of need to be working together once again as this is a group effort.
Changing the current setup changing the current setup of as 911 as a county department will look like as an organizational structure. For example, if they are changing SOPs at 911, which impact all of us in public safety, does that go through the advisory board and they make a recommendation, but then someone else has the ultimate authority on whether it goes into effect or not? What will that look like?
It's my understanding, and we still need to talk about this stuff, but it's my understanding that the Public Safety Advisory Board will make the decision based on the procedures that 911 takes place in implementing. I think as far as the county's department goes, they're more related to the budget and the hiring and firing and the I forgot the wording that was used, but the implementation of the department. So procedurally wise, that is correct. Okay, I think if all questions are, I should use Mr. Bloss' ending comment here, but I'm not going to. That's just Mr. Bloss, but yeah. But I think we're ready to adjourn the meeting.